Right, with that recording starting, so Haneesa, the floor is yours. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Hi, everyone. Good evening, I suppose. Good afternoon, good evening to all of the students of this course, this particular course. I think it's MHPA 2243, Student Development Theories.
Yes.
Yes, and firstly, I want to say thank you to Doria for giving me this chance to speak. I know you have thanked me for participating in your program, but thank you for letting me share my experience and share a few things with your students as well. Um, I will just begin with a bit trailing off as to what Doria said. Just picking up from what Doria said a moment ago about the buyer program. So it was a university program. So I think if you do the math, you can already guess our age. So it was a university program, and Doria knows this. I have been a very loud and proud advocate of conservation for the environment. I have a background in, I wouldn't say philanthropy, but my father, I picked up that interest from my father, who is now the state director of Belum, Belum Conservation Park in Perak. It's one of Malaysia's most um, ecologically diverse and one of our national treasures, actually. So my father is still doing work in that field, and I learned about. I was made aware of it through my father and my mother, of course, both of them. And I've been very vocal about the issue, and I was highly vocal throughout university. I started my own university environmental club because we did not have a club that was associated to conserving the environment during my time. So I started that club, and we managed a lot of activities, including getting the department, not department, the faculty of built environment to support our club. So that was a big passion of mine, and I bring this in my working experience. I will start showing the slides just to give you guys an idea. So this is a slide that I actually show to my hold on. Am I sharing this slide? Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah. So hi everyone. This is the beginning of my slides. Okay. So this is a slide that I show to my students every time we start a new academic year. It's in very simple language because it's meant for primary school students, but it basically sums up my background, a very brief sum of a brief introduction to my background. So as I was saying, that passion of mine to in environmental conservation, I brought it into my work right after I graduated. So after I graduated, I immediately started working even before graduation. I was offered a role at a building consultancy. So I was in a completely different industry before. So it was construction and development. I did not study anything related to built environment or landscaping or anything like that. Material yeah there's a course that I forgot where you have to like study the materials used for the buildings. So I wasn't in that background at all, but I got into that industry really quickly, and I sort of climbed up the ladder quite quickly as well. Within 3 years, starting as a fresh graduate with an English literature background, within 3 years at the company, I already held two major projects, which was the development of KLIA2. Now, I'm not sure. I think they changed the name. KLIA2, they changed to KLIA A or B. I think recently I heard in the
KIRA
news.
Terminal 2.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I was there when it was literally flat, and we started building it up. So my consultancy's role was to make sure that the airport achieved its green building status. So if any of you are familiar with the construction and development industry, we have green building certifications. We have LEED from the US. We have our own certification in Malaysia. We have Green RE. We have a Singapore. There are buildings in Malaysia that have Singaporean certification as well. So that's basically what my consultancy did. So within 3 years, I already held two major projects, KLIA two, and also a hotel. And the hotel was, I would say, like my baby, because we really built that hotel from the ground up. And I, coming from a background of literature, I had to learn about different industries, different policies in the construction and development industry, in buildings, in commercial buildings, residential buildings. I had to learn um, how do you start building a company, who is building buildings, and who is involved, and contractors. I have to get in touch with contractors, wear my yellow boots and go on site and that kind of thing. So, but at the end of those 3 years, although I did have quite a successful short stint at the company, it was severely affecting my my personal life, and my health as well. And if you read the newspaper, if you're up to date with the news, the statistics with health in young adults in my age is really, it's not very positive. It's quite bleak. So I did not want to be part of that statistic. I know that I have to change my lifestyle in order to preserve my health. I have to set my priorities straight, and find a way to manage my life. So for some strange reason, now I say it's strange. In the past, I had this mentality that was like everyone else. So maybe if I became a teacher, life would be easier. And unfortunately, I was one of those people, and it's not, definitely not easier. However, it is more manageable. So here I am. I think 7 years later, I've been teaching for seven, going on 8 years. 7 years later, after I quit my job at the previous consultancy, um, I went for a crash course in the Czech Republic, because I have had friends who have done a certificate in teaching English as a foreign language. They've done it overseas, and it's basically a shortcut ticket to start teaching. So if you don't have the time or the resource to continue your studies, or go for another tertiary education, this was like a shortcut. So me being very young, very naive, and wanting to do things very fast, getting things done, even now I just want to get things done really fast, I decided to take that course, which was challenging, but doable. And it took me about 1 month to get the course. And the risk to that course was, if you failed, you would have to retake the whole course again, pay for the whole course, and retake the whole the exam again. So thankfully, I passed with good results, and I started teaching in Malaysia. Um, I was advised to teach overseas, but at the time I had other priorities. I had my family priorities, so I had to come back to Malaysia and start teaching here. Now, back in Malaysia, I really started from zero. I did not have any knowledge as to how I would enter the education industry or enter this market. So I did, again, my naive self. I just applied. I just applied to a lot of private schools to see where I could land. And I felt that the private school environment was something that I could take on. So I went for it, and I started teaching at a small school in Selangor. I taught there for a year before they had to relocate to Bangi. So I had to stop working there. And then I continued working in Kuala Lumpur in another small private school. And I spent 3 years there because it was very convenient. That was also the time when I settled down. I got married and I had a child. Now my child is 4 years old. And so after 3 years of spending my time at that second school, moved on to a third school, which was quite an established international school in Kuala Lumpur as well. I spent 3 years there, and that was I would say, I gained the most experience as a teacher because I was exposed to the IB framework. If any of you are from the IB background, International Baccalaureate, you would know um, what kind of environment and what kind of learning expectations is set on you as an IB student. So and thankfully, I had a rough experience there in terms of the workload, but in terms of exposure, that was the best time of my life. And at the end of the 3 years, I was offered the role as a coordinator. So the coordinator to the primary years program. So in an IB school, you would have middle years, which is secondary, primary years, which is primary school, early years, which is the kindergarten years, and you would have diploma students. So being the coordinator of the entire primary school program was a big achievement for me. And it would mean that I would have a lot of extra responsibilities. Unfortunately, I couldn't come to terms, like I couldn't see eye to eye with the school, so I had to leave. Although I am very, very thankful for the opportunity that they offered to me. I had to leave the school, and now I am in another school in Kuala Lumpur. I think it's mentioned in the brief. I'm with Spectrum International Islamic School, which is in Bukit Tungku, and there we adopt the Cambridge syllabus. All of the students are studying to sit for their checkpoint exams in year six and their O levels followed by their A levels. So enough about me. I will continue with what I actually do on a day-to-day basis. So I don't know if anyone here is interested in becoming a teacher. Maybe you could leave an emoji or raise your hand. I don't know if you are interested. Okay. If you are interested in going in the education line, you could share that as well. So, what do I do on a day-to-day basis? So, my responsibilities are basically divided into two. We have academic and non-academic. Um, it is essentially the same with all teachers across the board. At least, so I'm speaking for as a primary school teacher. So it's essentially the same. We have academic responsibilities and non-academic. So as you can see on the screen, these are just a brief summary of what we do as a teacher. I prepare lesson plans. I have to ensure that my lesson plans are in line with the school's vision and mission. We have each school differs in the expectation it has on this teacher. So when you are in a new school, just as when you are in a new company, when you start working, um, the company will have different expectations and as to how you conduct your lesson, what you have to include in your lesson, how you conduct yourself in the classroom. So generally, we have our values or our values as teachers. We conduct with good behavior and we are models to the students. But when you are in different schools, you will have different expectations from the company. So I run assessments, I record the assessment data from all of my students, I record the results, assessment results, I collaborate with my teachers, with my colleagues. I attend professional development opportunities. We have differentiated instruction when I have to deal with different students. um, I have to take on different approaches, even though we are in the same class. I have to take on different approaches. Some other things, other responsibilities include talking to parents and guardians and staying up to date with trends. Right now, I think in terms of a digital skill, one of the emerging trends, or rather, like it's already emerged, is the use of AI. So my students, as young as the age of 8 or 7, I would say they are already familiar with AI technology. I have students who write novels and create graphics for their novels using AI. Students, as you know, are very fast learners. The younger you are, the faster you learn. So it's important for teachers to know that you we have to keep up to date. I mean, there's no excuse not to be updated with whatever is happening in the current world. It's not this isn't a job where you just take the syllabus, read from the syllabus and teach it to students. It's not a matter of that. It's really about keeping up with what your students are learning outside of the classroom and not just inside the classroom, making sure that you are in the know as well. So some of my non-academic responsibilities include administrative tasks. I have a lot of data compilation. I started off as someone who didn't like data to someone who's obsessed with data. I don't know if that's a good thing. Someone who is always looking at data, is always creating graphs from data. And one of and yes, I have supervision roles. I monitor students behaviors, and we educate the students, or um, we advise the students based on the school's vision and mission and the school's values. So when you work in different schools, you will have different values. Right now, if you notice that I'm working at an Islamic school, so we have Islamic values. Previously, I was in international school, so we have the 10. If you are an IB students, you would be familiar with the 10 IB learner profiles. So teachers have to be able to be flexible and to know to adapt their teaching styles and their learning content with the values that the school carries. What else do I do? Attend school activities and events, of course, stay up to date on school policies, and also communicate with parents about non-academic issues. One of the things that I am very proud of is that my ability to communicate with parents. I think just a second ago I was talking to a parent. It's past school hours, but I do speak to parents outside of school hours sometimes, and I'm still able to balance work and my life, even though I do take work a little bit outside of my working hours. Um, so yes, this is some of my responsibilities. So what does it actually look like? So as you can see on the screen, I have a few snippets of what goes on in the classroom. Um, on further to the left, on all the way to the left, we have my students playing Blooket. As with all students and all teachers, actually, including lecturers, we all love games. One of my I wouldn't say tagline, but the three we have currently, I am teaching year 3 students. So we have three power words in the classroom that we always go back to whenever we are in class, which is: my learning is fun, my learning is easy, my learning is effective. So if we don't meet any of these three power words, we know that something, it's not like something is wrong, but we're not like learning to the best of our ability. So it has to be fun, it has to be easy, it has to be effective. And fun, as you can see on the furthest left, we're playing Blooket there. We're playing a game for our English class. Students are learning using how to use commas. And the good thing about these digital tools is that you immediately get feedback. So you know how many students are doing well, how many students are not doing well, and the students can see what are their mistakes. And the best part, being in a primary school, being in primary level, is that the students are be able to see data in a very fun manner, in a lot of colors, so in a way that that makes the feedback more effective towards them, when they receive the feedback. Before I continue, are there any questions or anything that needs to be clarified?
Oh, the instructor has one.
Oh, okay.
Okay. If you could go probably if you could explain currently you're teaching at what year? Year three, right? If I'm not mistaken. Just now you
Year
mentioned.
year three and year four. Yes.
Year three, year four. This is your school's own syllabus, or you're following a particular syllabus that is designed and then adopted from somewhere.
We are using the Cambridge curriculum.
Okay.
So yeah, which means our English, math, science syllabus are all following the Cambridge syllabus, so that they prepare themselves for the checkpoints and the tests, the exams
Uh,
that yeah, the upcoming exams. Yeah.
these are a bit of clarifying questions lah. Because in case we didn't catch it earlier on. Another question when I look at this slide is that and also through our private interaction is that guys, if you notice the photos that are shared in Haneesa's slides, there are stickers on the students' faces. If you could okay, I probably know a bit already because these are related to protection matters. Probably if you could share with the class why are we doing this, and then why is it important for us to do this.
Okay. You mean when I cover the students' faces?
Yes, correct,
Okay.
correct.
So, in most schools, especially in, I mean, my experience is in a private schools. We have a child protection or child safety policy. The name differs, but basically it's the same thing, to protect the children. So part of the child protection policy is that we do not um, we ask for permission from students as to whether or not they want their identities to be revealed to the public when they are in the school setting. So if the media that is being taken is shows them in the school, sorry, give me a second.
Sure. While waiting for Haneesa, guys, take note. This is very important because at least in the Malaysia context, in the public school system, we are not really doing it at the moment. That is why I'm asking that question so that we all realize, okay, this is something probably that we can learn after this from extra reading. All right.
Okay, so back to what I was saying. Right. So in every school, we have a child protection policy or a child safety policy. So it covers a lot of aspects in the school. I mean, there's looking after the child safety in terms of their physique, in terms of their their mental health well-being. But in our case, on my side, as you can see on my slides, we need to ask permission from the students and the parents as to whether they are okay with us showing the child's identity when it's in a school setting on any in any media, so it's videos or pictures or even audio. um, so we if this the usually the protocol is that the parents would sign a waiver form at the start of the school when they enroll their child in the school. So most parents are quite lenient about it, but there are some parents who are quite strict. They don't want their child's identity to be revealed, and it's an important thing because I think online, when there's a lot of exposure online, there's also a lot of opportunity to exploit these pictures, and there is a lot of positive opportunity, but there is a lot of a negative opportunity as well. So in because of that, we try our best to protect the students safety. And I am not fully aware, I will be honest, I'm not fully aware of what measures they take in public schools. What I know is that usually in public schools, the school administration differs between schools, as in they almost have um, the the power is mainly under the headmaster of the school. So they are able to, I wouldn't say bend or be flexible with the rules, but they are able to change the rules accordingly, based on the individual headmaster or like the school administration itself. Under the government, or under our own ministries, I'm not sure if we do have like a specific regulation when it comes to looking after student safety. Something that I can have the opportunity to look into in the future as well. So anyway, yeah. But just to protect my students, just based on my own values, I don't like to share my students' identities, even though they themselves are okay with it. Even though they themselves, they teach it's okay, I'm on TikTok. I dance on TikTok every day. No, I will not show your picture. I will cover your picture. Okay. So
Thank
that's
you
that.
so much, Nanisa, for that. Sorry for that sudden question.
Oh no, no
Just
problem.
clarifying. Okay, back
Yeah.
to you.
Okay, so I'll go to that picture. So that picture actually is a picture of them planting. I think it was a science workshop. So they're learning about plants and the life cycle of plants and what plants need to survive. So that's learning in the classroom. And then we have in the middle, the picture in the middle is the quack model. This is a model that I came up with on my own. And that's another passion, or like I would say obsession, that I picked up as well, creating models for students in class that work for them. There are a lot of models that are available for students, that are readily available and created by actual researchers. But sometimes with students, we have to water down the models and make it easier for them to understand. Okay, so moving on. So I have that model. It's actually called the Quack model. It's meant to help students with reading comprehension. It's super small, but basically it talks about reading the questions first and then the text, underlying keywords in the question so that they can find the keywords in the text. Looking at easy questions, so looking at the marks that are given in the comprehension. So if you have like 1 mark for one question, you know that it's an easy question. If it's 2 marks, then you will have to maybe give your opinion or find evidence from the text. Yeah, and using keywords that they find in the reading material to answer their the questions, the comprehension questions. On the furthest right, if I have a question, if you were a plant, which plant would you be and why? And I've decided to ask this question to the students in the class right now. Also, you can leave me you can leave an answer in the chat. If you were a plant, what plant would you be and why? And if you are wondering why I asked this question in class, it's a reflection question. So it gives the students a lot of opportunity to, because this lesson was a science lesson. So we learn about the different characteristics of plants, different types of plants. And it's a good way to for the students to reflect on themselves as well, and giving characteristics to themselves, and thinking about their strengths, thinking about their weaknesses. It's a good way to relate the reflection activity with the actual content of the lesson. And the last picture, that picture of the jar with the blue liquid, yeah, that was also a science. That was a science experiment. The other photo is a science workshop. So that experiment was to see, to prove that plants need water to survive. I think we've all done this activity where we put a plant in colored dye, water with dye, and then you can see the dye going up the plant. Yeah. So you guys can answer that question too. If you are a plant, what plant would you be? I think one of the most interesting answers I got was cactus, and I got I think a plant, something to do with sleeping, like a creeper plant, so that I can sleep all day or something, like no one will bother me. That's so funny. Okay. That was coming from a 9-year-old boy. So next we have learning outside the classroom. So learning doesn't just happen inside the classroom as we know it. It happens outside the classroom. And if you notice on the left,
Am I a child?
on the left, yes, you are a child. So if you notice on the left, we have two representatives from an organization called Kitaran. And this organization, what they do is they focus on spreading the message of a circular model in businesses in terms of their waste. So what they offer is a waste management strategy, a waste management tool whereby they collect plastics and they create trinkets, they create products from the plastic. So as you can see, my students are buying the coasters, they're busy buying the necklaces, buying the earrings, buying, I think, like charms. So it's something that's fun for the students, easy for them to understand. It's easy for them to like accept, and fun for them to learn. But at the same time, they get that awareness of this issue, this important issue. And I believe this was related to our lesson. I don't remember the lesson itself, but I remember the theme. So when you are in an IB school, you learn based on themes, and we have 6 themes every year. And this theme is called how we organize ourselves. So it's basically teaching students how humans work in an organization, and how we need to work with each other in an organization in order for things to function properly. Yeah. So on the right, we have a cultural visit to a museum in Kuala Lumpur, and we also have a paper making activity. As you can see, I mean, I know my students' faces are covered, but as you can see, one of I mentioned before, one of my responsibilities is to look after the well-being of the students. And as you can see, we have a very diverse set of students from a lot of different backgrounds. I have students from Malaysia, from Pakistan, from Bangladesh, from India, from China. A lot of my students here, as you can see, they are all from China. And we have to learn to get along with each other and learn with each other, and we have a lot of fun actually. As I said, I have those three like commandments. Learning has to be fun, has to be easy, has to be effective. Maybe in the future I will change these three commandments, I'll adjust it or improve on it, but right now this works. These three commandments work in my classroom. So one of the more important things that I do, and this was from my school, in my school previously, was the PYP exhibition. So at the end of the students learning in year 5, they have like a final year project similar to university. So in their final year project, they are supposed to choose one United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, and they are supposed to research that goal, find ways to achieve the targets in the goal. There are a lot of targets, so they have to choose one target and find out a way how to achieve that target in their own capacity as students in a school. So basically, what is required of them is an exhibition. They have to put up posters at the back. They have to come up with posters and create an exhibition and come up with materials for people to read during the exhibition. And yeah, they have to present their topic. Yeah. Is this cold water? Help. Okay, sorry for the quick commercial break. Okay. Okay, moving on. So one of the most important highlights of teaching in an international school, especially one that is under the IB framework, is the PYP exhibition. This is important because you need to be able to guide your students to issues that are in the outside world. And as students, it is easy for them to learn, but you really have to speak in a language where they understand. So, as you can see in the UN SDGs, we have no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well being. when you are as young as 7 or 8 or 9 years old, some of, especially in our setting, if you're living in an urban community, if you're attending public school, some of these issues may not be very relevant to you. So it was a challenge, exposing students and making them think outside of the box, you know. Okay, so how much time do I have left actually, Doria?
You started around
Past
five
seven?
zero seven. So go ahead. Finish. It's okay. We our class is actually until 7 p.m. So you have all the time in the world to present.
Okay, wow. Okay, I won't take much time. I'll open the floor to questions soon. So, one of the highlights of my job as a teacher, I wouldn't say highlight, one of the what do you call this, expectation, like important parts of my job as a teacher is to, as I mentioned before, is to be updated with the different tools that are available online. And these are just some of the tools that we use. We have, you guys might use it as well in your class. So we have ReadWorks, Blooket, Epic, Canva, Class Dojo, and of course, Google for Education. Um, I know that there are some materials on some of these platforms that are meant not just for primary students, but also for students in the tertiary education. I think in quizzes and in Kahoot, you have questions for like university students. So I know that these platforms are not just relevant to the students now, but they will be using it in the future. So it's good to expose them to as many as possible. Um, if anyone has any questions up to now, you can ask just a quick question about the tools. Otherwise, I will continue. All right. So apart from the tools that I use to teach the students, these are the tools that the school uses, and basically the teachers' tools. As you can see, it's a lot of tables. I wanted to share some of the data analysis, but I thought, okay, it's 5 p.m. on a weekday. Maybe we shouldn't look at data, even though I I'm the one who's always looking at
It's
data.
okay. The instructor is interested.
There's so much data that we have to look at. So, but I will skip that for now. So these are just some of the tools. This is my class timetable. I have 26, yeah, 26 teaching hours. It's not that bad. To some, a lot of teachers, this is a lot, but it's actually really not that bad. And I still have time to, because of the climate of the school, it's a small school and with a limited number of students, I have the time to plan my lessons to make sure learning is effective. Sometimes when we work, we there are demands. For example, I don't demand for this, but like I read in your project brief, in your brief, Doria, private schools do have a smaller number of students, and that is that is not it is a privilege, but I would say that it should be a requirement for all students, because class size does affect the quality of the learning, especially for younger students. So it's not about giving teacher privileges or giving teachers what they demand. It's about balancing between what is needed for the students, and the teacher what the teacher can provide, what is needed from the students, and what the school can provide for the teachers. So it's really a delicate balance. And from the past three private schools that I have taught into, this has always been a challenge. It's not a challenge in just in small schools or like a larger schools or more established schools. It's a challenge in all schools, trying to balance out what the school can give and what the students actually need from the school. Another challenge I have to say, and we'll move on to challenges later, but another challenge I would say would have to be with the administration of the school, with the management of the school. Private schools are not unfortunately, but to a large extent, still a running business. It's a running company. So schools schools are run based on not just based on the um, what they can offer in terms of the education, but they also have a business model that they have to keep to, and they have to maintain, and they have to see if it works. So that often interferes the with the academic side of the business. Unfortunately, it does interfere, and it is one of it is a big concern for a lot of teachers in a lot of private schools. At the bottom is you can see that is the duty list for all teachers. So our days are quite packed, and we have a short time in between classes to plan lessons, or to plan to do assessments, to mark works, and to plan lessons. But it's all in a day's work. We have to juggle that. I think Doria understands that as well. And we try to make it work every day. Yeah. So as I was saying, now the challenges that I'm going to speak of now, it's related to academics. Previously, it was not related to academics, more towards the management, the school management, and the administration of the school itself. So I have a short snippet on the screen about the new school curriculum in Malaysia under the Ministry of Education. So the basic skills that we focus on in this country are the 3M, which is basically reading, writing, and arithmetic, which is math, calculation and math. In my school, or rather in my experience, I have the same issue. Literacy is such a big issue. It's quite surprising seeing that we are living in 2023, and there are still issues in literacy with students. And um, because I have been teaching in private schools, the mother tongue of all of my students differ widely. So, students from different countries have different mother tongue, and that's fine. But it is a problem when students do not have literacy skills. When I say literacy, I mean literacy in all languages. Students who cannot read, cannot write, cannot speak, well, can speak at a basic level, but they cannot speak fluently either in English or their mother tongue. It's a huge problem, and I'm really quite shocked. um, I think it does show a flaw in our education system, not just in Malaysia, but the education system probably in other countries as well, seeing as my students are quite diverse and they still don't have these basic literacy skills. Um, so yeah, that is a problem. Now, what are the types of problems? We have decoding, which is basically looking at the symbols, looking at letters, or looking at the alphabets and knowing what the alphabet stand for, the sound that they stand for, or the character that they stand for. And then we have comprehension. When students read a text, they sometimes are able to read it fluently, but they don't understand anything. They just read but don't understand. So that's also an issue. We have fluency. Some students have some grasp of the language, but they are not fluent. So that affects their learning, and that is related to syllabus. I'll go to that in a while. And last but not least, of course, there's motivation. A lot of students are not motivated to learn. They are not even motivated to have literacy skills. There are literally students and parents whom, when I share with them these problems, they don't seem to think that there's a problem if their child cannot read, and that's really mind blowing, and it's a huge red flag to me as a parent, yeah, as a teacher. It's really a huge red flag. um and this last part about motivation, it's also highly tied to the socio-economic background of the students. There are students who come from a social background, or an academic background whereby the parents don't think that it's important for them to have literacy skills. When they finish, they'll just work. They don't need to know how to read. They just need to know how to work. And on the other end of the spectrum, we also have students who are extremely privileged to the point that they don't feel that they need the education, down to the literacy skills. Students who are economic, like really well off economically, their parents feel like they can sustain the child for a long time. So, my child doesn't have to be really smart. I've literally heard a comment from a parent saying, so her daughter was not doing well. Her daughter is actually really capable. She's has a lot of potential, but when the mom came to the parent teacher meeting and heard that the daughter wasn't doing well, she literally look at the daughter and just told her, "It's okay. You just need to find a rich husband." And this girl is 11 years old. Yeah. So as a teacher and as a parent, I mean, just as a teacher, we have these goals set for students, and your child is part of the organization, is part of the institution. For them not even to have the same goals as their peers or even the administrator, it's really it question sometimes we question why the students are even in school. You don't have the same goals, so why are you in the institution? And the sad part is the child actually wants to learn, but um that's just one of the factors that we can't control, their family background. And there are a lot of other factors as well, but sometimes that not sometimes it does hinder the learning of the students. When there's no motivation in themselves, no motivation from their families to learn, then basically what is the point of learning, right? So moving on to syllabus, I would like to relate this to fluency. So um, I believe some of you might be familiar, or maybe all of you are familiar with the Cambridge syllabus. Um, when you learn English in the Cambridge syllabus, you have first language learners and you have second language learners. Most of us, if we are not from, I mean, when we are not from a first language English speaking background, so we adopt the second language approach. Unfortunately, some schools they enforce the first language approach or the first language syllabus on all students, no matter what your background is. So, back to my problem with fluency, when my students are not fluent in English, they are unable to keep up with the syllabus. So, that's already two problems. You are not fluent and you cannot keep up with the syllabus. So, what are the problems that I have with our syllabus? Academic rigor. Sometimes the content is too difficult. Um, and then we have language and literacy. Again, the language that is used is more familiar towards a first language speaker. So, if you're a second language speaker, you don't understand nuances, you don't understand certain idioms or certain phrases of speech. And then we have assessment and testing. And this is where differentiation comes in. So differentiation is basically when you assess or you conduct a class, but at different with different styles to suit different learners. So differentiation can be in the environment, differentiation can be in your assessment, in your content. Like you change it a little bit so that what you're teaching can be learned by like the weaker students and the more capable students. Like everyone can learn at the same time. That's differentiation. Lastly, social and cultural factors. Sometimes the content in the syllabus doesn't make sense to the students because it's so culturally um, different from what the students are used to. They just totally don't understand like what is the point of learning this, what is the message of this text or the story. So those are like the two main problems that I have. I was asked to come up with cases, specific students with these problems, but these are problems that are recurring. So if I want to talk about specific students, they would have like the same problem. So one of the tools that I use, one of the tools, sorry, one of the methods. So in literacy, what I do is I have a lot of strategies. I don't even know where to start, but I say like step number one is to look at analyze the student themselves. I am privileged because my class size is quite small and manageable, so I can analyze the student, pinpoint exactly where their weakness is. And then number two is when I start the planning, I can plan what is needed to help the student overcome their literacy. So differentiation is something that as a teacher, it has to be at your fingertips. You need to know immediately, almost immediately, how to handle different students. And then we have the planning, and then we have execution. So I execute what I planned towards the students. Sometimes it's as simple as changing the worksheet or changing the instructions or adding vocabulary so that the students are able to answer questions easier. Sometimes it goes beyond that. But I noticed that if I do my analysis, do my planning and execution, basically these three, it works for the students. They will show some improvement. It may not show the amount of improvement that I want, but I also have to do goal setting for myself and the student and see what goals do they want to reach, and we try to reach that goal instead of being too ambitious. Yeah. And as for the syllabus, now this is more difficult because it's a requirement from the school for me to teach a certain syllabus. So if I have to teach first language English to second language speakers, I don't have a choice but to do that. Sometimes I do have the opportunity to talk to the school and negotiate with the school, not to completely revise the syllabus, but to conduct differentiation, and they're okay with that. But most of the time it is what I do is I'll give a very simple example. Right now in year three, we are reading myths and legends. And if you are a 9-year old with no background in English, and you are reading the legend of, let's say, King Arthur for the first time, it's going to be quite difficult. It might be easy for you to understand what you're reading, like read the text, but it's hard for you to understand the background and the importance of the story and the message of the story, and really to visualize the story. So what I do is in the tools that you guys saw previously, I use those tools to supplement my students' learning. So if we read King Arthur in class, I will look for a similar legend or myth that is from my students, that is relatable to my students' culture. Introduce that to them, and then we will compare it side by side with King Arthur, for example. We're not reading King Arthur right now, the Legend of King Arthur, but that's just an example. We have side by side. So using tools helps me a lot. I don't have like a step by step. Basically, while I'm doing my lesson planning, I look at the entire syllabus, pinpoint where my students might need help with, and then find tools to supplement them. Tools are teachers' best friends. So I just access the ready-made tools and just give them to the students. So that way it makes it really easy. And that wraps up the end of my that is the end of my sharing session, and that wraps up my session. Please feel free to ask questions or drop any questions to your lecturer, and you can share them with me if you want to. And I believe that is all from me. um, yeah, as a teacher to my as a fellow educator myself, I would like to just leave students with my three commandments. I don't know if you can apply the three commandments in your class, but I would say, if you want to approach your learning, and now that you are adults, have a set of power words for yourself before you start learning, to make your learning easier and to keep yourself on track. So for my students, it's fun, easy, and effective. No matter what, at what level they are, if whether they're weak students or like stronger students, when they go back to these three commandments, they instantly can get themselves back on track. So they ask themselves, if is my they ask themselves, like, is my learning fun? If it's not fun, then there's a problem. Class cannot be too boring, especially for primary school students. Is it easy? If it's not easy, they have problems like, teacher, I don't have books. Teacher, I don't have my pencil. Teacher, I don't know where my book is. Then that's also a problem. Then you know that you need to fix that problem. And last but not least, is it effective? Is what you're learning being retained in your mind? Are you able to use it in your daily life? Are you able to use what you learn in your assessment? Are you able to transfer it into your assessment? So if there are any problems, if the students, like, they're like 8 or 9 years old, if they sometimes they don't even know they have a problem, they're just like, they don't know how to say it. We're adults, we know how to say things. They're kids, they don't even know how to say it when they have a problem. So I just go back to these three things. I ask them to question these three things, and if they meet a no anywhere in these three things, then we know that, okay, that's where we have to fix the problem. So yeah, that's all from me. I hope everyone is still okay, doing well. And I will pass the floor to Doria.
Thank you so much, Haneesa. Such a insightful and lively sharing. I think I will steal your three commandments to be used after this. Fun, easy, and effective. Even for adults, I think we still need this. We
Yeah.
still need these kind of reminders.
Yeah.
Let's go straight into Q&A. Chai Feng, you are raising your hand, so I think you have a question. Would you like to start asking your question? Chai Feng, you raise your hand.
Sorry, I don't have any question. I am a primary school teacher as before. I think many similar problem in my learning. Yes.
Similar problems. Yes, like I said, I think the problems are quite universal. I have teacher friends who are teaching outside of Malaysia, and again, the problems are universal, and I think that says a lot about the development of the education system in all of our countries in the modern day. Actually, um, it's still very hard to pinpoint what exactly the problem is and what the solution is. But I don't think with any issue in the world, there's no like one magical solution that will solve everything. It's an ongoing journey for all of us, and we have to fix things along the journey. Yeah.
Thank you, Chai Feng, for
Thank
that
you.
comment. Now I know one of my students have been teaching in primary school before, so good to know. Okay, while waiting for other questions to come in, you guys can either raise your hand so that I see who is raising hand, or type your question in the chat function. Haneesa, if you could share with us, because you mentioned the school is small, is how do you manage pastoral care? Meaning to say, because you mentioned a lot of the things that you do even after school hours is in one of it is communicating with the parents, right? So
So usually not usually, I do set very strict boundaries for myself, when it comes to communicating with parents, or with any issue, any aspect of my work. I do set very strict boundaries, with I do set boundaries, but and I know how to manage those boundaries. Like now, I like a second ago, I was speaking to a parent. I At the beginning, I built a relationship with the parent. Just to give you like an anecdotal, like an experience. So I build a relationship with the parent. I build a relationship with the student as well, and that makes communication much easier. I can tell the parent if I want to excuse myself, um, and I'm not able to answer her messages, and she will be okay with that. I know that this isn't how do I say this? This is a communication skill. So this is one of the communication skills that if you have, it will greatly benefit you. Um, I have to say that the work that I do is quite specialized. My audience is very specialized. It's private school students living in Malaysia. So I have a very specific clientele, and because I've been doing this for quite some time, the experience that I has made me quite skilled at handling the issues with my specific clientele. So I build a bond with a student. I build a bond with this parent. Um, and I'm able to communicate with them quite freely, stop the communication when I want to without any issues without any issues or confrontation between me and the parent. I can just tell her now that can I speak about this tomorrow? Would that be okay? And she would be fine with it. It's just that she needed to express something that was actually quite concerning. It was a bullying incident with her son, so it's quite a serious case. That's why I took her message. Otherwise, I would strictly not answer parents' messages, and I have not had problems with that throughout my 7 years. I have not had parents complaining like, why isn't teacher Haneesa complaining, replying my messages after school hours? Because I do hear those complaints, but I don't get those complaints for myself. And that's like I said, it's is it interpersonal skill, right? Doya, yeah,
Yep. Yep.
interpersonal skill, yeah. Even outside of, even when this parent is not messaging me, so this is just a tip for you guys. When this parent is not messaging me, I'm the one messaging her. Good news about her son. So parents, we don't have to wait for teachers. We don't have to wait for parents to ask us, is my son doing okay? Is my child doing okay? No, you are the one. You could, one of the skills that you could have is to be the one to do things first. You send good news to your child first. And I've been doing that with this parent specifically quite consistently. And she's very happy. Of course, I think with any parent, they would be very happy knowing their progress of their child. And thankfully the communication has been fine. And pastoral care, like what Doria said, one of my strengths, and I don't okay in the challenges slides that I showed previously, I actually added one more challenge, but it's not an academic challenge. It's called it's I wrote um God, I'm at a loss for words. It's a performance review. So performance review. So one of the challenges I feel for teachers is assessing our performance. A lot of people think that, and a lot of teachers also think this. If I'm a teacher, I have the syllabus. I transfer the syllabus to my students, and my job is done. But how do you assess how good a teacher is if that's your job? And basically, like, anyone can do that job, right? But it's not that. It's more than that. That's why people learn to become teachers. That's why people take masters in education. That's why people develop policies that are different in each school, because it's not just about that. So yeah, how do you measure how good a teacher is? One of the you have Well, usually in school we would have a performance review. We have not questionnaires. We have like surveys. We have what I would call a QAT. Previously, it's called a QAT. It's like a quality assessment for teachers. You would have an observer in the class watching the teacher teach, and then they would give scores. So my latest score from the previous school, because I haven't been assessed in this school, but my most recent score was 94%. And I'm really proud of that score. I will say it loud and proud. I'm really proud. And my assessor told me that it's hard to get that 90% benchmark. What more to get 94%? And I know teachers who have gotten like up to 98%. So that's always my target. And one of the indicators for me as a teacher that I'm doing my job well is feedback from parents. Feedback has to come from parents, and you have to receive feedback for themselves. And I consistently receive good feedback from my parents, and it's something that I am also proud of. I'm not shy to say that I'm proud of it, because it is a good assessment of how well I'm doing my job. So I always get feedback from my parents. When I get positive feedback and like specific things that parents mention that I do in class, that's extremely helpful, because then I know what is the strategy that I'm using that works in class. So yeah, so yeah, so to back to Doria's question, I I manage my time. Like I have specific time, I have specific boundaries as to what um how people can talk to me, and I also have like boundaries within the class itself. Like boundaries can be in many aspects, right? So in the class, I set very hard and fast rules at the start of the academic term. We have what we call a classroom agreement, and I don't have a picture of it, but it's very cute. It's in my class. It's like a legal agreement from but written by the students on manila card, and they have like flowers and cats and all kinds of things, but it is technically a legal agreement. So one of it is I will read, write, speak, and listen in class. So they know that when they don't do these four things, they're like breaking like almost like breaking the law. Like they know they need to do it. How well they do it is not a problem. It's not the question. It's just that they need to do it. And then another one is I will have fun in class. So it's like a law in our classroom that you have to have fun. If you're not having fun, you're breaking the law. So we have like a list of agreement, and then the student decides how many items they want in the agreement. So it's and that agreement, I mean, it's a very when the students do it, they're having fun, but it's so important because it sets very hard boundaries to the students, like very clear boundaries. There are very clear statements like I will not harm my friends. So they know that um, instantly, let's say they're doing something, kids, they do things that might harm their friends and they don't know it, like they're pinching, they're hitting, they're poking, and all kinds of things. So whenever they don't know or they're not sure of what they're doing, they go back to the agreement, and then they read the agreement, and then they do that connection, they make that connection themselves, and immediately they set the boundary. I don't even have to say anything. I don't even have to be like, you stop hitting your friend, blah blah blah. I just tell them, okay, everyone go back to the agreement, look at it, and immediately, like, no more problems throughout the day. They're like, okay, they connect the dots, like, okay, they're okay. Yeah, so I see it like setting boundaries and maintaining good relationship with your parents and having good communication skills is quite important. Yeah.
Thank you, Haneesa, for that question. I think you have answered Tahira's question, kan? What is the most difficult challenge that you face day-to-day basis when you are a teacher of private school? I think part of it you have mentioned a bit, but not sure if you can add on to that.
I think Tahira, to answer your question, the two challenges that I mentioned previously, literacy and syllabus, that is specific to private schools. On a day-to-day basis, universally, like we always have, I wouldn't say behavioral or discipline problems, but behavior or discipline issues with students is something that, as a teacher, you always have to be on high alert. You That doesn't mean you have to always like look strict or like shout at students. No, but you just have to be very observant of what the students are doing. Because I deal with primary school students, they literally their their brains are not fully developed, so they really don't know. Sometimes they really don't know what is right and what is wrong. I mean, they know, you can teach them, but they really, you know uh, don't fully understand what I'm doing right or wrong. So it can be something as simple, like I mentioned, like hitting your friend. That happens with all younger kids. They hate, they play. And you also have a lot of, like I said, I teach students with a wide cultural background. So the way that you speak and the way that you play with your friends, when you are from different cultures, it might be different. So there can be tension from that as well. So that's one of the things that I have to be aware of, the students' behavior when they are with their friends. And like I said, when I go back to my classroom agreement, immediately the students like understand. They take a step back themselves and they understand. Okay, if one of the agreement is I need to respect my friends, they question themselves, is what I'm doing respectful? So, like I said, I don't like setting clear boundaries is so important because you don't it saves you the time of like yapping, don't hit your friends, blah blah blah. It saves you that time, and it creates a very strong foundation in students, and it creates, I mean, they create that boundary from other people and for themselves. So as they grow up, they have a stronger understanding of that boundary, and we have less and less disciplinary issues. But like I said, we do face that challenge. I wouldn't say daily, like me, I don't know, weekly. Students who have like cultural, like not cultural tensions, like they play rough, and that's how they do it. That's how they do with that's how they play with their cousins, and then like when they come to school they play like that, and that's the problem. So just being an observant teacher is helpful, so that's also a skill. Yeah. So being observant and going back to drawing boundaries. Yeah.
I think Tahira has a follow-up question. What is the most important component when you want to deal with student development? And then there's a follow-up before that. Any difficulty that you manage in terms of looking at students who have ADHD, students who are mentally struggling?
Okay. Can I just quickly mention one of your students, Zengre? Your
Yeah.
your name is exactly the same as one of my students previously. So I got like a mini shock. I thought that I was like, oh my god, my student. No, no, you're not him. I know.
It's a
But
different student.
yeah, but like exactly the same. So so I'll go to Tahira's question. Sorry, I'll go to Zenwei's question. I really enjoy working in a private school. Um, I I find that it's I mean, when you have worked for like almost 10 years, like more than 10 years actually, and you understand your own strengths, your own weaknesses, your own personality, and you find an industry that can really let you shine, or like really help you like grow, it really is like almost like hitting the jackpot. Like you can use all of your skills in this industry and become someone really good at it. Yeah, it's really really a jackpot. And I do have an ambition to go into a management position. I was offered that previously, and I did want to do that. So in the future, I do hope to do that. That would be between me and the school. We would have to see, and I would have to see where my career development, my career progression goes. I might go to another school and take up a management position there as well if I'm offered. Yeah, but overall, I do like the environment, and just in an economic a perspective, the education business in Malaysia is actually quite flourishing. It's still highly sought after. There are all these like whispers of like AI taking over your job and everything. I personally am not afraid of AI. I embrace AI full on. I will use it to the most of my abilities, and I know that there will still be a demand for teachers. At least I would say, I dare say, in the next 10 years, because of our mentality. I feel like our Asian approach, or like our Asian mentality, it hasn't really wavered, like it hasn't really changed. So education, what do you call this, school education is still very important. Like I mentioned, I have parents who are like, I wouldn't say like, are not really serious about their child's education, but they still send their kids to school. Everyone wants their children to go to school, so there is always a demand. And I foresee that I will be in this industry for quite some time. So Tahira, as an international school student, I relate so much. Being a teacher, I find ADHD or mentally struggling students challenging. Do you have some difficulty? What is the important component when want to deal with student development? Okay. If we are talking specifically about students with SEN, special education needs, the first thing that I always do is I always go to the school administrator and ask them what are their policies and what resources do they offer to teachers, because SEN is a very specialized area. You can't simply be like a normal teacher and think that you can deal with it. I A lot of teachers are forced to deal with it. They try their best to deal with it, myself included. I'm not specialized in special education, special needs education, but I am forced to deal with students with special education needs. Uh, but what I do is I reach out. I have, and this is the power of networking. I have friends who have a lot of experience as behavioral um, I have psychologist friends, behavioral what is it called? I can't remember. A behavioral therapist. Yes, behavioral therapists. I have friends who are psychologists. I have friends who are therapists, and I'm able to talk to them. I mean, if I was an outside person asking for advice, that would like require me to pay them, you know. But because they are my friends, I can just like share. It would be a case study. So I share with them, and then they give me advice. They can't like fully train me, of course, but they give me advice. They look at the problems that I'm dealing with and come up with specific solutions to that problem. I would also say that use as many resources as possible on the internet. I feel like there are organizations that can help people deal with students with special education needs. There's a lot of resources on the internet. I myself am on Instagram a lot, so I love to. One of my hobbies is to talk to random strangers on Instagram. I don't know if I should be advocating this, but like talking to or reaching out to organizations and just dropping a message, you know, because you'd be very surprised as to how people are open to speak on social media. Maybe it's more like casual. That's why they feel like they can just talk to you. Um, and not just people, even celebrities, I find totally digressing, but if you just like send them a message on social media, for some reason they're more like comfortable responding to you, or like influencers. I'm not saying that to like to encourage people to talk to celebrities or not, but it's a good social study, you know. It's like a social experiment. If you talk to someone through Instagram message, like in my experience, they're way more comfortable responding to you as opposed to like chatting with them formally. Of course, sometimes you have to like reach out to organizations formally, but like for some reason, like just a personal choice, when I message NGOs through social media, they for advice, sometimes they just like give advice for free, and it's like really helpful. Sometimes I get in touch and I make friends through social media, and I, you know, build my network. So like I said, online tools are like super helpful when you know how to use them. You know, they will like really help you go far, make new friends, network. You know, it's really quite good. Quite a good tool. I do ADHD students. I don't remember except for one student in my previous school. I think he was diagnosed specifically with ADHD. I have more students who are diagnosed with dyslexia. So what we do is usually the school will guide the parents step by step to meet a therapist, get the student assessed, get the students checked, um, support the parents in any way possible. There are some issues of like financing, like the students, the cost of the therapist. The school doesn't bear that cost, but they work with this parent and the organization as closely as possible to help the students without having to fork out so much money if the parents are not willing to, or if the parents are not able to. So it's really a collaboration. It's like a triage: the teacher, the parent, and the school management. You know, it has to be like the three of them working together. Yeah.
Thank you, Anissa, for that question. I think one issue that I might have to bring back for future semesters is um, managing students with special needs. I think there's a term that you use, right? Special needs students.
SEN.
Yep. So, okay, I think that will be the last question that I'm allowed to take because we have taken a lot of time from Haneesa. Thank you so much, Haneesa, for sharing. Please join me in giving a virtual thank you, everyone. There's a reaction button that you can use to thank Haneesa. I think
Welcome.
you've shared a lot in terms of your experiences at the school. What you've managed is a lot of academic, but then indirectly, when you manage academic, you also have to manage other aspects of the students, and the rule setup. And guys, get back to the rules is something very interesting because if it is in student development theory, we are talking about student agency. To what extent can they decide on their own, reflect on their own actions, especially it's often that we decide for our students, but sometimes we forgot to ask whether it is all right for them. So last words, Haneesa, if you would like to share with the class.
And I don't have any last words besides like as again as an educator towards students, always have like a roadmap that you can go back to. If you're like lost in your learning journey, go back to that roadmap and hopefully like your problems will be solved when you get back on track. Fun, easy, and effective. That's my commandment. That's my roadmap with my students.
So class, let's together steal that particular 3 commandments to be used in our sessions in the future. Thank you so much, Haneesa. You can choose to remain in the session or you can choose to leave because I'll be doing some debriefing with the students. I'll contact you later for some other things to handle. Before you leave, please don't forget to share your slides. I think the students after this, when they're doing their review and reflection, they might need that as a visual guide in terms of reminding themselves on what you have presented.
Sure, definitely.
Thank you. Thank you.
All
Say,
right. Thank you,
send my greetings to your little guy.
Most definitely. Thank you.
Okay,
Bye,
thank you.
everyone. Take
Bye,
care.
Haneesa. Okay, guys. We have finished our session in terms of the second sharing last week. Let me stop recording.